Have you ever wondered why the more honest you are, the more exposed you feel? Why the moment you open up, something shifts, and not always in your favor? The truth is, not everyone deserves access to your inner world. In a society that romanticizes vulnerability, what you reveal can and will be used against you. Machiavelli understood this long before the modern age. He taught not confession, but containment, not expression, but strategy. And if you want to walk through this world with strength and clarity, there are 7 things you must never reveal. Stay with me. You'll see why silence protects more than truth ever could. Number 1, never reveal your true intentions. In a world obsessed with sharing, with declaring, with announcing every goal before it breathes, the wisest path is silence. People often say, be honest about what you want, be transparent, speak your truth. But Machiavelli would have raised an eyebrow at such advice. He understood something timeless, that the moment people can see your destination, they start building walls in your path. The clarity of your ambition makes others uncomfortable. It activates their insecurities. It invites resistance, not support, because when your intentions are visible, you become a target long before you become a threat. They begin to calculate against you. They test your limits. They plant doubts in others. They disguise sabotage as concern. And they do this not always out of malice, but because your rise reminds them of their stagnation. Your clarity shines a light on the shadows they haven't yet faced within themselves. And, for many, that is unbearable. That's why your greatest strength is not in the declaration of your desires, but in the discipline to conceal them. This isn't about deception, it's about protection. A Stoic does not announce his inner world to those who cannot handle it. He does not cast his intentions into the public square for everyone to dissect and distort. Instead, he moves like water, calm, flexible, unassuming, but always with direction. Imagine this. You're in a workplace. You want a promotion? You've been working for it. You've studied every angle, but instead of declaring it, you say, I'm just here to grow, to contribute. You let others assume you're passive. Meanwhile, you're refining every skill, nurturing every alliance, preparing for a moment only you know is coming. Then, one day, you step forward not as a surprise to yourself, but as a shock to everyone else, because they never saw it coming, and that is power. In relationships, this applies just the same. Maybe your interest is fading, maybe your mind is shifting, but you don't need to explain every flicker of doubt. You let the silence stretch. You observe, you listen, you allow space for things to unfold. Because a Stoic knows that premature declarations often ruin what quiet clarity could have handled with elegance. Even in conflict, you do not rush to confrontation. You don't declare war. You let the appearance of peace remain intact until your position is unshakable, because to move with intention is one thing, to move unseen until the moment is right. That is mastery. You are not hiding, you are building, and the less they know, the more they guess. The more they guess, the more they underestimate, and the more they underestimate, the easier it is for you to win without ever having to announce your play. So remember this. When your goals are invisible, your enemies don't know where to strike. When your motives are unreadable, they waste their energy chasing shadows, and in that space of mystery, you reclaim your power. Let the world see your patience. Let them see your curiosity. But guard your destination like it is sacred, because it is. You don't owe anyone a map to the empire you are quietly building. Let them find out when the gates are already closed. Number 2, never reveal your emotional weakness. They tell you to be vulnerable, to open up, to share your struggles as a way to connect. But what they often mean, though rarely say out loud, is this: show me where you break, in a world that rewards appearance more than essence. Revealing your emotional wounds is not always met with compassion. It is often met with calculation. The moment you share how deeply something hurts you, how much you overthink, how lost or alone you feel, many will not receive that with care. They will store it, like ammunition, not to comfort you, but to control you when the tides shift. You think you're being real. They see you being exposed, and exposure invites danger, not understanding. They collect your confessions quietly. They nod with empathy today, and weaponize your honesty tomorrow. When things go wrong, they will not strike at your competence, because that is fortified. They will strike at the soft underbelly you showed them, the tear in your armor you pointed to. The story you once told in trust will echo back to you with malice. Machiavelli was not without heart. He was simply unwilling to place it where it could be pierced. He understood a hard truth that modern minds often forget, that the appearance of vulnerability can be used to build connection or strategy, but authentic emotional exposure must be guarded with the same precision as a nation's secrets. There is strength in silence, not because emotions are shameful, but because emotions are sacred, and the sacred must be shielded from those who would desecrate it. You want to weep. Do so in solitude, where the tears can fall safely without being twisted into weakness. You want to fall apart. Do it behind the closed doors of your own discipline, where no one can interpret your humanity as instability, not because feeling is a flaw, but because others too often use your feelings to bend your spirit, even if your soul trembles. Let your face remain composed. That is not coldness, that is courage. That is the mastery of self the Stoics revered. Imagine this. You are in conflict with someone you once trusted, and, in a moment of honesty, you told them about your fear of abandonment, your childhood scars, your sleepless nights. It felt human at the time, but now the bond is fractured, and you notice their words begin to echo your vulnerabilities, their timing sharp, their phrasing precise. What you gave them in trust, they now use as leverage. This is why the wise man keeps his pain wrapped in silence, not to deny it, but to protect it from unworthy hands. To live with emotion is human. To control the expression of that emotion is power. When the world demands your tears, give them a steady gaze instead. When chaos stirs your heart, let your actions remain unshaken. This is not denial. It is defense. It is the preservation of your inner fortress in a world eager to breach it. Remember, the less they know about your emotional depths, the less power they hold, and in that restraint, in that sacred silence, you do not become cold, you become untouchable. Number 3, never reveal your real alliances. In a world obsessed with sides, where people demand to know who you stand with and who you oppose, your greatest weapon is ambiguity. It may feel noble to declare your loyalties, to make it clear who you trust, who you believe in, who you would fight for, but in the eyes of power, clarity can be a trap. Loyalty that is visible becomes a map, and once you are mapped, you are manageable. Once they know who you speak to behind closed doors, they can begin to pull those strings. They can pressure those closest to you, corrupt your confidence, and erode your strength without ever confronting you directly. Machiavelli understood this better than most. He warned us that deception is often most satisfying when used against those who believe they cannot be deceived. That is why your alliances must live in the shadows. Not because trust is wrong, but because exposure is weakness. History is full of examples. Kingdoms do not collapse from sheer force. They fall from within when internal loyalties are exposed. When the enemy no longer needs to guess who to break, but sees clearly where to strike. Every revealed bond becomes a pathway to betrayal. So protect your alliances like a sacred code. In public, remain unreadable. Be warm without promising allegiance. Be courteous even with your adversaries. Be skeptical even with your allies. Let no one feel entirely secure in your approval. This does not mean you are disloyal. It means your loyalty is rare, precious and not to be flaunted for applause. Let people wonder where you truly stand. Let them guess who whispers in your ear. Let them chase shadows, unsure whether you lean toward power, toward principle, or toward something else entirely. There is strength in uncertainty. The man who shows his cards becomes predictable. The man who keeps his counsel becomes feared. Because people do not fear enemies they understand. They fear the ones who smile with everyone yet commit to no one. That man becomes a mystery. That mystery becomes a threat. And that threat becomes untouchable. Picture yourself in a high-stakes environment. Politics, business, or any social hierarchy. You openly favor one side. You champion one voice. What happens when tides turn? When that voice falters, you fall with them. But if you had stayed unreadable, if you had moved with quiet neutrality, you would not have to rebuild. You would still be standing, unshaken by shifting tides. The Stoic understands this not as manipulation, but as self-preservation. True loyalty is not performative. It is chosen in silence and honored in private. It needs no announcement. When you truly care for someone, you do not paint a target on their back by exposing your bond. You protect that bond by concealing it. So remember, in a world that thrives on division, your unpredictability is your shield. The less they know about who you trust, the less they can do to destroy what you've built. And in that uncertainty, you gain freedom, because no one can control the man whose moves are hidden and whose loyalties are buried deep beneath the surface. Number 4, never reveal what truly motivates you. One of the most dangerous questions someone can ask you is this: what drives you? What is your reason? What keeps you going when no one is watching? On the surface, it feels like a chance to be real, to connect, to show your depth. But in the game of power, that question is not curiosity. It is a probe, and your honest answer becomes your own undoing. You say, "I want to prove myself." They don't hear ambition. They hear a craving for validation, and they learn that your silence is the weapon that will shake you. You say, "I just want to feel loved." They don't see vulnerability. They see a hunger they can manipulate, a need they can withhold when they want to control you. You say, "I want to make my family proud." They now know how to guilt trip you into compliance. What you thought was depth becomes a blueprint for influence. What you saw as transparency, they now use as leverage. Machiavelli never praised noble intentions. He praised the capacity to act, to achieve, to win despite sentiment. The ends justify the means, not because morality is irrelevant, but because people often appeal to your values to distract you from your purpose. They will manipulate your why to delay your how. They will pretend to applaud your heart, all while guiding your hands in the wrong direction. They will flatter your dreams while anchoring your actions. You may want to build something eternal, but they will offer applause today, just to keep you from finishing the legacy you could have left tomorrow. So how do you protect yourself? You keep your true motivation under lock and key. You offer surface answers that disarm. "I'm just exploring. I'm curious. I'm trying new things." You make your mission sound soft, unthreatening, forgettable, not because you lack clarity, but because clarity is sacred, and sacred things are not for public consumption. They are protected, nurtured, hidden in the quiet places of the mind where others cannot reach. Meanwhile, you build in silence. Your vision sharpens behind closed doors. Your progress grows in the dark, beyond the reach of their approval or doubt. Because when your true motive is invisible, your actions become unpredictable. And in a world where manipulation thrives on understanding, being unreadable is a form of self-preservation. The Stoic walks the path not by shouting his purpose, but by embodying it. He does not waste words to explain what can only be proven through results. He understands that those who truly move mountains rarely announce their plans to the crowd below. They rise without noise, and only when the dust settles does the world ask, "How did they do it?" Let them ask. Let them guess. Let your motivation be something they try to define and fail. Because once they know what fuels you, they will try to take it away. But if they never see it coming, they will never stop it. Let your results speak in a voice louder than any explanation. That is the discipline of the quiet builder. That is the strength of the Stoic mind. Number 5. Never reveal what or who you despise. In an ideal world, expressing your dislikes would be seen as a sign of integrity. You would speak your truth, and others would respect the boundaries your convictions create. But this is not that world. This is a world where your emotional triggers become tools in the hands of those who watch more than they speak. Every time you confess what offends you, you invite someone to test your limits, not because they hate you, but because they now know how to move you, and in the realm of power. Being easy to move is being easy to manipulate, you say. I hate being ignored. Now silence becomes their weapon. They do not argue with you. They vanish, and you burn with anticipation. You say, I hate being lied to. Now every half-truth, every omission, every plausible misdirection is sharpened into a psychological game, you say. I hate being made fun of. Suddenly, all their jokes dance along the edges of that wound, delivered with smiles, wrapped in false innocence. The moment you declare your disgust, you give them a script, a formula, a way to make you react. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He warned that a ruler must learn to appear civilized while cultivating the instincts of both man and beast. Not because savagery is noble, but because appearances deceive and survival depends on what you do not reveal. You may feel anger, discomfort, or betrayal, but you cannot let the world see what shakes you. If they know what repels you, they will inch toward it. Subtly, gradually, testing your tolerance not with swords, but with smirks. You will be studied, not for admiration, but for control. So what must you do? You train for emotional neutrality. You build a fortress within, not to become indifferent, but to become ungovernable. When someone mocks you, you do not flinch. When someone ignores you, you do not chase. When someone lies to your face, you look through them as though the truth never needed validation. You let them wonder what affects you, who rattles your spirit, and why you remain unfazed. They cannot play a game when they do not know the rules, and your silence becomes the rule they cannot crack. Pretend you have no skin, not to deny your humanity, but to protect your dignity. Do not reveal which insults land. Do not name the enemies you fear. Do not broadcast the names of those who have hurt you, because the moment they know who you hate, they will bait you with righteousness. They will steer you away from your purpose by dangling the illusion of justice, and in chasing that illusion, you surrender your power. True strength lies in restraint. The Stoic does not announce his disgust. He observes it, masters it, and removes its grip from his psyche. To be powerful, you must learn to appear impenetrable, not to pretend nothing matters, but to ensure that no one can use what matters most against you. Let your preferences remain private. Let your dislikes remain unreadable, because the moment they think they know what breaks you, they will stop trying to know you. They will begin trying to break you. And that is when you must disappear into discipline, into silence, into the control that no one can access except you. Number 6, never reveal what you're willing to sacrifice. In theory, boundaries protect you when you state them clearly. In practice, clarity is often what gets you exploited. The moment people know what you are unwilling to lose, they begin pressing exactly where it hurts. Not always with force, often with subtle erosion. You say, I would never quit this job. Now they underpay you, overwork you, and call it opportunity. You say, I could never hurt this person. Now they betray you in ways just beneath the threshold of consequence. Because they know you will absorb the blow, you say, "This relationship means everything to me." Now they arrive late, love inconsistently, give half, knowing you will stay whole. What you reveal in devotion, others convert into leverage. The more you declare your loyalty, the more you show how little threat you pose. And when you are not a threat, you are not respected. Machiavelli understood this paradox. He taught that a ruler must appear replaceable while never actually being so. But more importantly, he urged the powerful to always let others believe they can be replaced, even when they cannot. Why? Because perception is armor. If they believe you might walk away, they treat your presence like a privilege. But if they know you will stay no matter the cost, they begin to devalue that presence as if it were permanent furniture in their kingdom. This is where your power flips. You no longer speak in absolutes. Instead of saying, "I will never leave," you say, "I enjoy this chapter for now." Instead of promising eternal effort, you say, "I will give what makes sense for the season I'm in." You remain present, but never fully predictable. You remain loyal, but never fully surrendered. And that difference shifts the balance of power. This does not make you cold, it makes you clear. Because what you are willing to sacrifice is the final card in any negotiation. And when you lay that card on the table too early, they do not ask for it directly. They begin removing the pieces around it until your sacrifice becomes the only option. You will not be forced. You will choose it. And that is the most dangerous manipulation of all. The illusion of agency when your boundaries have already been dismantled. In a world that romanticizes openness, remember this: full exposure is not a virtue, it is an invitation. Machiavelli warned that he who is the cause of another's greatness is often the first to be undone. When you lay out the architecture of your mind, your dreams, your fears, and your limits, you hand over the keys to your destruction. A wise Stoic builds internal clarity but external ambiguity. The fire burns within, but the face remains unreadable. Let them wonder what you would walk away from. Let them guess what you would endure. Let them doubt your limits without ever confirming them. Because mystery is a form of self-defense, and in silence, you recover leverage that honesty gave away too easily. Be guided by your values, yes, but protect their details. Speak with restraint, and when the time comes to make a sacrifice, let it be one no one saw coming. Not because you were hiding, but because your strength was never meant to be measured by those who assumed they knew where your line was drawn. Number 7. Never reveal what you truly think of yourself. Of all the secrets you must protect, the most dangerous one to reveal is what you believe about yourself. Not your opinion of others, not your outlook on the world, but your private, unfiltered view of your own worth. Because once someone gains access to that internal narrative, they gain access to your reality. Tell them you doubt yourself, and they will begin reinforcing that doubt, slowly and subtly, until it settles into permanence. Tell them you feel unattractive, untalented, or unworthy, and they will reflect those beliefs back to you in the form of cruel jokes, backhanded compliments, and cold indifference. They will not tear you down with violence. They will teach you to do it yourself, gently, through their agreement. And if you dare to say you feel powerful, if you confess that you are meant for something greater, that you believe in your potential, you become a threat, not because you harmed anyone, but because your confidence makes others uncomfortable. Most people do not want to witness someone rising. They want humility. They want hesitation. They want evidence of your insecurity so they can feel secure in your presence. That is why they demand your truth. Not to honor it, but to contain it. Machiavelli would have told you that the greatest deception is allowing others to believe they understand who you are, not by lying, but by offering a version of yourself that is digestible. You play the role of the humble, the agreeable, the non-threatening. You let them think you are stagnant while inside you are building an empire. Their comfort becomes your camouflage. Their laughter becomes the curtain behind which you sharpen your strategy. This is the power of silence. Not silence as absence, but silence as tension. It unsettles. It makes others talk too much, guess too much, reveal themselves while trying to interpret you. Your silence becomes a mirror they cannot escape. They fill it with their fears, their assumptions, and their projections. And in that confusion, your power takes root, because in every room, the one who speaks the least often controls the emotional tone. The world is addicted to explanation. Most people overshare, hoping to be understood. But understanding is not always a gift. Once they understand how you work, they begin to work against you. That is why your new discipline is this: reveal nothing essential. Let your actions be your language. Let your distance be your defense. Let your ambiguity be your armor. The less they know, the more they fear, because what they cannot define, they cannot defeat. You do not need to be wealthy yet. You do not need to be dominant yet. But you do need to be unreadable, because unreadable people are untouchable. They walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere without speaking. They are treated with caution, not because they demanded respect, but because they revealed nothing that could be used against them. This is not about pretending. It is about protecting. When you live in a world that hunts for weakness, broadcasting your self-image is surrender. The Stoic does not beg to be known. He walks with quiet assurance, guiding perception without bending to it. What you truly think of yourself should be guarded like treasure. Speak with purpose, but never for validation. Let the world guess your depth. Let them misread your silence. Let them feel your presence without ever holding your truth. Because in doing so, you do not just protect your soul, you become untouchable. And when they finally understand what you are, it will be long after it no longer matters, because by then you'll have moved in silence, grown in shadow, and arrived without needing their approval. The loud ones are seen, the reckless ones are feared, but it's the quiet, unreadable ones who become unstoppable, not because they shouted their worth, but because they never gave others the map to undermine it. You didn't rise by chance. You rose by protecting your core, by withholding what they were never meant to hold, by choosing mystery over exposure and discipline over noise. That's how legends are made, not through explanation, but through presence. If this message lit a fire in you, consider subscribing to keep walking this path together, and drop a comment below. Protect the core. You don't have to be understood to be powerful. Just stay grounded, stay quiet, and let the world adjust to your silence. The next move is yours. I'll see you there.